Okay, and we're live and we're on Facebook and we're starting the meeting just a couple minutes late. We're waiting for a couple people to chime in here. And as usual, if we are recording and we are streaming on Facebook, so if you don't want to be recognized, if you want to maintain your anonymity, just keep your video off, disguise your voice, and everyone should be good. Feel like we need some catchy intro music,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
what I was thinking. Kind of like the Mama's Gonna Knock You Out song. For decompressing anger.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
See you at the workshop or catch a case.
right, exactly. So I'm Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, and the upcoming book, soon to be author of the upcoming book, The Business of Being Human, which I've been working on for the last couple of years, working with an editor for almost 2 years now. As you can imagine, it's a long book, but tonight's topic is decompressing anger. So we'll roll into that here in just a minute. Yeah, thanks for joining. A lot of these topics, this is there's no takeaways. You're here to stay. I'm introducing some different concepts. Hopefully well, I don't care if they're different, but hopefully new ways of looking at things, just to encourage these kinds of conversations. A lot of the business of being human concept and teaching and learning modality is looking at ourselves with the same intention that a lot of people give contemporary business. Of course, there's a lot more to that, but let's be intentional about ourselves and about how we function as people, right? If we're going to look at people from a business modality, let's start to understand ourselves. Yeah, so go through these things and just putting some ideas out here, hopefully to spur some more thought and encourage other people to think about what we're thinking about and our lives as humans here on this beautiful planet. So, why this topic? Why this topic? Well, um, feelings are important. All our feelings have a place, right? I think it's important that we address challenging topics. Challenging topics are the ones a lot of times they get swept under the rug, suppressed, oppressed. That doesn't work, right? Our feelings are there for a reason. And anger is a common one. It should be a common one. Who hasn't felt anger? I think that there's lot Gray, you haven't. Oh yeah, by the way, my trusty sidekick and co-advocate, Griselda here, holding down the fort, help keeping me in line in case I miss something.
I'm the brains
Oops, faux
behind it
pas,
all.
faux
The
pas,
book,
faux pas.
everything.
Yes, see the brain.
I'm kidding. I'm
Did you
kidding.
hear the faux pas holding down the fort? We don't want that. That's
Oh,
man,
am I?
messed up. No, it's the fort. Anyways, no forts, no forts.
Yeah, I thought we were
Just
out on the
holding it
plains
down.
all lonely.
We're
Come
on
on
the
now.
plains, no forts, pre-fort. This is a pre-fort conversation.
I'm telling you, that's why I'm the brain. See my brain?
Pre-fort. See, it's important to think about to listen to the words that come out of our own mouths. Um, so yeah. So Griselda was saying earlier that you've never had any problems with anger at all in your life. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
me neither. Oh my gosh, when I was
That's
younger,
why that's why
so
I'm here at the
freaking
workshop so I don't catch
angry.
a case.
So freaking angry. I mean, so legit. What if I said that most people probably aren't angry enough?
Yeah.
What would that what would that look like? Is that an interesting statement?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. there's a lot to be angry about, right? There's a lot to be angry about, but we're not supposed to suppress our feelings, right? But we also don't want to just perpetuate anger. Okay. So anger, we're talking about anger as a focal point, but really it's all of our emotions. So suppressing emotions isn't a good thing. And the people that suppress their anger, which is so common, it ends up overflowing. So, I mean, suppressing emotions, first of all, it just doesn't work. So if we understand our emotions, we talk about our emotions, we understand where they come from, why they're there, build a relationship with our own emotions is the key. And as usual, the understanding, right? I've started reading this and I've been doing it for the past couple workshops here. Understanding is the soil, idea is the seed, intention is the water, action is the sunlight. So always soil and adding understanding to these concepts. That's a common theme. Identifying the challenge, adding understanding, because that understanding automatically creates a sense of contentment with our understanding, with our cognitive understanding. Hence the brain. I'm pointing to that brain. I got a brain right here too, right? If we work with our brain, our cognitive growth and healing, I like to use that phrase, cognitive growth and healing provides emotional understanding. So even understanding and talking about our anger, we get some levity and we get some emotional healing, emotional wellness just through the process. And so these are some things to cognitively understand, that identifying challenge is one thing, addressing the challenge, embracing the challenge. Remember that workshop? Embracing the challenge is key. So we're talking about understanding, but we're also talking about feelings in general. And balance, if we understand one of these natural laws of balance, someone could say, well, how can we understand joy if we don't understand anger? How can we understand anger if we don't understand joy? So those things, those balancing factors can give us a lot of understanding for their I hate to say opposites, but we'll use that word for right now so I don't spend 20 minutes trying to think of a good word. But right, how do we know and the same thing, how do we know love if we don't know hate? That's another one, right? Hate and anger, those words, I'm going to say, have negative connotations in contemporary society, but there are emotions. And a lot of those emotions are based on, kind of good cause. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of things to be angry about. But balance also says that for every challenge, there's a solution, and then there's a balance factor. So however much we're angry, there's got to be a point where we have that much joy, also, right? So understanding ourselves from a balance factor, from a natural law factor. And of course, embracing the challenge, because with all these things, right, what's the universal picture? What's people think about learning and lessons in a strictly human to human form. But if we say, what's the universe doing when we have these emotions, right? We have anger. Well, I don't want to feel angry. Well, how do I not feel angry? That's us understanding ourselves. So to understand some big picture understandings, right? Follow all this. There's natural lessons built into everything. And so if we go into a challenge understanding that, if we go into a personal development challenge understanding that there's a real lesson, and that by understanding ourselves, we grow some emotional wellness just on its own volition of understanding. That helps us embrace our challenges on, what people might say the next level. But understanding anger, that's a real easy thing to get anxious about. Oh, my anger, man, my anger just arises and consumes me and I lash out. Right. Okay. So let's build some context around the whole thing first, right? And then build some understanding about why we have these emotions, about what this anger is, because there's one part that the anger is showing us joy. The joy is showing us anger. And then what we were just saying is that this is all helping us understand ourselves. I'm going to go rogue for a minute. I'm going to go off script, and I'm going to do a whiteboard. So all these things, right? If we're really gonna start from scratch, we've got a challenging topic, right? So first of all, let's transmute some anxiety about about challenging topics in general. Okay, and we already did that, a little bit of understanding, that there's lessons that really, it doesn't matter if it's our anger, our hate, our joy, our happiness, our love, our whatever combination of feelings we're having, still understanding those is connecting with ourself, which brings emotional wellness. So I just want to do this thing, and I just did it for the first time a little bit earlier. So here we go. There's this, and there's this, and there's this, and this is challenge. And this is, of course, the solution, right? Because balance. So there's some cognitive understandings about our personal development, business of being human, right? This is how we function. There's balance. So a key, super, super important thing to understand is that for every challenge, there's a solution, right? Because we get challenged, we understand, we grow. And then of course we end up using our development and passing that on. Then we get another challenge, and that's a cycle, talking about more natural laws. We grow, we get a new challenge, we have to embrace that challenge, grow, understand the challenge, rise to the challenge, as they say. And then we see where the challenge grew us. So all these things have a purpose. The planet has a purpose. Okay. This is us. Okay. And this, oops, I should draw it like that. This is our view. This is our view of a challenge, right? At first, wow, this is the challenge. As we understand it more, it comes into perspective, hence the props. Right? Oh, the world's challenges are big. Look, that's all I can see. I can't even see anything else. It's overwhelming how big the challenge is, right? But that's just a perspective, because when we meet challenge, it's all up in our face, right? I mean, that's how most of them work. And if we say that's how most of them work, we say that's how most of them function, as challenges naturally occurring, a natural law in the human ecosystem, in our physical, mental, emotional human ecosystem. So natural laws, challenge, balance, cycles, ebb flow, sustainability, connection to everything. If we start to understand life on this planet in general, we can see where all those things are flowing on a regular basis. All right. So we understand that, right? And then there's a good business thing, since we talked about business a little bit earlier. You can also hold a penny up so close that you can't see a dollar, or a more natural and that predates the printed currency concept by time immemorial is not seeing the forest for the trees. So this is a challenge. When we first meet, it's all up in our face. But if I say this is us, this is our understanding. So any A students know what's going to happen next? We're going to grow our understanding, right? Okay, no gold stars for handwriting. But just have to understand that means that scribble is understanding. Okay. So as we grow our understanding, right? If it's a volume thing, then look at our view. Oh. We can see the solution. When we first start out, we can't see the solution. So we grow our understanding, and then we can see the solution. So just a little bit about context, process, and yeah, understanding, like, to know that they're like things work. Life works perfectly on this planet. We just need to figure out how, and how it works for us. So understanding our emotions, right? Anger, for some people at some times, is this big of a challenge. Wouldn't we rather have it this big of a challenge? At least. And maybe if we grow a even more understanding, look, the challenge gets smaller. And then it's the embracing challenge, and it's like, okay, I can do this. I can self-manage.
The challenge gets smaller because then you perceive more
Well, yeah, the challenge doesn't get
solution.
smaller. It's our understanding, right?
Yeah.
Good point. We grow. Well, we're growing.
Mm-hmm.
We grow. I like to say grow through our challenges. People say rise to the challenge or conquer the challenge or whatever. I like to say grow through our challenge, and like become that, because I think that's a more accurate reflection of what's happening, and understanding growth and that sort of thing. So there's that. So yeah, anger, suppressing anger, not good. Suppressing any emotion is not good. That just doesn't work. I don't think I need to go too much into that aspect for everyone here, but I do have in the book, I talk a lot about suppressing emotion, and I call it energy remanifestation. So basically, it's that if we don't address the things going on within ourselves, they don't just go away, right? So just suppressing, trying to ignore cognitive dissonance, talking about cognitive dissonance, ignoring self. These things don't just go away. They re-manifest themselves and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And challenge, and remember that lesson from challenge first. Challenge, kind of introduce itself, taps on the front door. Hey, you know, I'm challenged. Nice to meet you. You got this thing over here. If you don't mind, take care of it when you can. Okay. And you say, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll get to it. And then challenge is back again at the front door. Hey, I know we just talked a little bit ago. And you still got this thing over here you need to work on. You're kind of getting angry and you don't know why. Oh, okay. And then you know, you ignore it. Whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Not listening to myself. I'm mad. I don't know why. Just trying to put that away because contemporary society says it's bad to be angry. Oh, okay. Well, shoot, I don't want to be angry then. I'm going to pretend I'm not angry. Well, that's not reality. So then challenges like bang, bang, bang. Hey man, you said you were gonna deal with this shit. Whatever. You know, I'll do the fuck your feelings kind of thing. Wait, I'm going to get back to that. Then challenge doesn't go away. Then next thing you know, challenge is kicking in the back door. And that's all bad. So our emotions and our emotional challenges don't go away, and even we talk about, anger, but isn't that pursuit of joy a challenge too? How many people sacrifice their boundaries and let their boundaries down to try and find joy? No one talks about that, huh? No one talks about how bad the pursuit of joy is. No one talks about the pursuit of anger. People talk about don't be angry. Hey, don't be angry. Just don't. Well, our emotions are there for a reason. So to just say, just don't, it's not just whenever we hear ourselves saying just stop, right? Because there's a process, there's understanding. All the people that say fuck your feelings, isn't that a classic one? That makes me angry. But you know whose feelings are fucked first is theirs, right? I mean, that's the crowd that, man, like, we are feelings. What feelings? Just the good feelings? What feelings? What feelings is someone wanting to disregard for someone else, anyways? Because it's first of all, it's just classic projection of someone trying to disregard their own feelings. But wait, isn't anger a feeling? If you're saying, "Oh, I don't want to hear your feelings," that's a feeling. It's like you're saying fuck your feelings, but that's a feeling you have. You reflected in those words. So a little bit of talking about some contemporary social issues here. For all the people that say fuck your feelings, it's like, oh, unfuck yours first and then worry about mine, because that's the real problem. you know I'm not worried about my feelings, I'm worried about your feelings. Because if you say fuck my feelings, it's like, well, your feelings are really fucked up. You don't know how any of this shit works. You're human, you have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what about, all these feelings? Everything's got balance. Everything's got a balance. People trying so hard to find joy and trying to find happiness that we're um looking for it in materialistic pursuits, right? So no one says anything about joy, but isn't that the thing that people are chasing? People are chasing happiness. People are killing everything around them for happiness. for the pursuit of happiness. They're just not, they just don't understand the process of real happiness. No one says, well, happiness is bad. Well, there's probably more people transgressing on other people for their pursuit of happiness than because they're mad. As a matter of fact, aren't most people angry because they're not happy? Right? If we're not happy, so we're angry. But what are the steps that people are taking to be happy? A lot of people are looking for that, but without like real understanding ourselves, human behavior. We're our own advanced college degree. Anthropology, psychology, what's the other one? Sociology, right? All of us need to know all those things. Not to mention the basics of understanding environment and habitats and those kind of things. So where does, so, you know, understanding the balance, understanding not to have a negative association with anything, because we could have a negative association with the pursuit of happiness, right? The colonial society would say, oh, well, the pursuit of happiness is guaranteed. Well, yeah, at the expense of what? At the expense of other people's happiness. So there's a lot of these things that just people haven't thought about their feelings, that haven't gone through their emotions enough and like really understand, what are we trying to do? Okay. So trying to alleviate anger. First, obvious, where does anger come from? Where does our anger come from? What are some other words or feelings that we associate with anger? Um, I got three no video people, so that's understandable. Griselda, you have any feelings? Put you on the hot seat since you're on the payroll.
Three. How much I get
Do you have
paid?
any? Do you have any? Do you have any? Do you have any
Uh,
words to
what are
associate
three?
with?
What you
Do you have
said?
any words to associate with anger?
Uh, crying.
What's that? Crying?
Yeah,
Crying? Crying or trying? Crying.
crying. I
Crying?
associate crying with anger and anger with crying
Okay.
because
Okay,
that's
that's
what
a
I
good
do.
one.
I
I
get
think
so
about frustration.
yeah, frustration.
Hmm.
Passive aggressive.
Oh, passive aggressive.
So right, so that could go both ways. So being mad at someone, being angry with someone that's passive aggressive, or someone showing they're angry, so it comes out in passive aggressive.
Mm,
Yeah, that way too. Yeah, that's what I meant. Passive
Yeah.
aggressive, and then where you can't really be assertive. The reason I say that is because I used to be passive aggressive, and now I'm more assertive. But then there's
Oh, okay.
also,
Yeah,
yeah,
your
then there's,
audio is really low.
oh, is it? I'm sorry. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's a lot better. But I think
Passive, yeah.
yes. Yes, because the passive aggressive is passive aggressive. Can we say that that's like not clearly identifying the anger and trying to kind of halfway tone it down, but doesn't really tone it down? And then a lot of that's, well, a whole bunch of different aspects. But one aspect could be, for ourselves, is there something we could do to not get ourselves in a place where we're angry? And that's, um, growing our boundaries and understanding our boundaries. So we help keep ourselves from getting in a spot that we're angry. Is that
Yeah,
making
I
like
don't like
that?
that feeling of passive aggressive. I hate it when I do that. And so I work really hard not to do that. I work really hard to be assertive.
Right. Right. So one of the things when we're talking about, the dynamics with human to human relationships is if we let ourselves get in a place that we're going to get angry. And a lot of times that's a boundary thing. And that's something that we can take in and we can grow ourselves. We grow our boundaries, growing healthy boundaries. Remember that workshop? So growing healthy boundaries, that's, I think, a real good, solid one to help alleviate a lot of our anger is simply simply in theory, simple to understand, a little bit more challenging to implement. But yeah, don't let ourselves get in situations where we're going to be angry, you know,
I
and
f-
that's a
Hey,
big,
Craig.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
So I feel I feel like one of the something to like look for and identify is like body language to if you're able to understand somebody's body language kind of before they trigger you.
Mm,
Um, I think that's really important, especially when you've created that bond between each other. So then you know how to react because I guess having the boundaries is really helpful because then you're able to make the right decision and choices when dealing with someone that's doesn't have much balance in their life, especially with all different types of background. But I think a lot of it is, to me, is body language. Um, Sometimes when I see someone start, like for instance, someone I see someone start their legs going 100 miles an hour, um, like I kind of get anxiety, like why are they nervous, you know? But yeah, that's what I was my thoughts anyway.
yeah, absolutely. And, paying attention to ourselves, the balance part to that is paying attention to other people, and maybe other people are feeling anxious or uncomfortable. And depending on the person, if you put someone in a corner, um, there's a potential that they'll lash out, that they'll get angry. And that's really important when broaching challenging conversations with people. Because if we want to help, we want people to grow. The conversations are, challenging to deliver, and they're also challenging to receive. So that's an important thing. So to understand, you know, yeah, watch people's body language, um, and get to know each other, because that's another reflection of ourselves, and get to know, how people are, responding or reacting to the conversation. And I think that's always talking about balance. That's a ongoing education, when we talk to other people. And we want to challenge each other, but also we want to be respectful, but also we need to say the things that need to be said in no uncertain terms also. And all those things are going on, and they might vary from individual to individual, or from even, day to day. And sometimes with the same individual, we can have a more challenging conversation. And sometimes, we need to have a less challenging conversation. And sometimes we need to, hold off and recognize when we start to get frustrated. That's for me. Um, Frustration's a big one for me. Hell, I'm frustrated now. I feel that I'm frustrated now because I'm thinking about all these times, that I'm trying to say something really simple, like, you live on a planet, right? Like you live on a planet. That's extremely frustrating. That people somehow don't understand that. It's like the most simple, basic thing, right? And and yeah, it pisses me off. And that's like my first source of real, that's core anger there. That's real anger, you know? People disregarding the planet. It's always going to get back to that, right? That's killing everything. But I'm talking with a smile on my face now, but I've gone through this, you know, and I'm always going through it. And it's always, you know, part of my big lesson to like, okay, but transcend my own like feelings so I can make a positive impact. So like for me, you know, like that anger and it just through the roof, and hate. Yeah, man, all those things, big time, big time anger and hate. Um, have been like major players in my life. They're always right underneath the surface because I see the things I see. And it's frustrating, and people disregarding the planet. It's always, for me, that's always it. People disregarding the planet. That's all it takes. You know, that's all it takes. And I hate people. So there. But to transcend that is to understand why, you know, hell, okay. So, but the problem is the planet. And so this is like that natural biology, that natural science lesson that to help the organism, you have to understand the pathogen. So I care about the planet, the earth, nature. People are hurting it. So that's the pathogen. So to understand the pathogen, and that's something that I'll say the only way I can say it, to just speak plainly, is that's what Spirit told me, the thing that I already knew. And then I was like, oh, okay. So I got to deal with all these. And then it's like, yeah, well, you're also one of those. So, you know, when we talk about what are we perpetuating, but within that, and then to understand, oh, yes, we need to understand ourselves. And so kind of there's my life story in a small nutshell. Hence the conversation. So to understand ourselves is, you know, undoing that, and to start understanding why is there disregard for the planet, and ask that question, you know, or why would someone say, fuck your feelings? How does someone disregard themselves? And, you know, all these different factors, and there's a lot. I mean, it really is like next level anthropology, psychology, and sociology, you know, all wrapped up together, plus, you know, whatever other nuances there may be. But I'll give a little personal insight before that, before Spirit told me what I already knew and what I'd known, you know, like I knew that understanding the pathogen thing. I mean, literally like fourth and fifth grade. Because I was heavily involved with fisheries at that time. Yeah, I actually, I was doing, for people who don't know, I was very much into the sport fishing, the sport fishing scene in the industry. I had a lure manufacturing business, right? Catching fish. And I had the name for it when I was in fourth grade. So I was tying flies, I was making lures when I was really super young. And I actually got in trouble for selling lures at school when I was in fourth grade. Go figure. Got called into the principal's office because I didn't have a business license. True story. Didn't know what a business license was, but was just glad it wasn't anything else. So anyways, so like this basic working of what they call natural science, I've had for just, you know, a long time. And I was, how old was I? 22, probably, when I was walking down the street and spirit told me, if you want to help the organism, you have to understand the pathogen. And I was like, oh, I know that part. Before that, and now I'm looking back on it. This is live, reflecting on my past life. That's that's an Iron Maiden song. Getting off track. Yeah, reflecting on my past life, and it doesn't have much time to take me to the gallows pole. If you don't know it, you should know it. Yeah, Iron Maiden. It's a good one. Before that though, I told myself I just can't be mad anymore. It's like, man, I just can't be mad at everything. I was so pissed off. And then, yeah, of course, just, more personal information, that the heavy metal, the thrash metal, Slayer, Exodus, Metallica, Venom, the heavy hardcore thrash, and letting that anger and feeling that, that anger, which is common theme with that music. And of course, frustration and all that. Lots of poets have mentioned that. But yeah, I was like, man, I just can't be mad at all those. Like I was just, sick and tired of being sick and tired, part of the addiction, those parallels to addiction, just like I just got to stop. And then, relatively not long after that, I got that, oh, you got to understand the pathogen. And then that I didn't like get it the way I know it now, like actual psychology, sociology, anthropology, but just that understanding, it was like I was given that direction, and just that understanding was that little bit of alleviating my anger and frustration, I guess, because I some kind of deep instinctually recognize that, oh yeah, go this way, and embracing this challenge uh helps provide levity. So embracing the challenge, understanding our anger, understanding where it comes from, is important, obviously. And I understood where my anger came from on those, and being frustrated with people, and people disregarding the planet we live in. And then of course, seeing people disregard themselves, because that's the core. That's what I see as the core of it. So, understanding where our anger comes from. And then frustration is a big part of it. What other? I thought I wrote some other words down. They're like frustration, anger, frustration, fear. Is fear part of anger? Is jealousy part of anger? Is depression part of anger? These are some of these less desirable feelings that we have. How do all those things relate to each other? Right. So for me, if frustration leads to anger, then I got to work on that. And part of my narrative, part of my, growth, healing, self-management process is to keep the big picture in mind. Yeah, there's more at stake. There's more at stake than my feelings. Right. So that transcending ourself, right? And when we talk about ego, transcending ego, get that part that's not just ourself, because ourself is a small part of it. It's, understanding this. Now what we're doing, understanding ourself, but apply it to the collective, right? So we're understanding the collective. We understand ourselves. We have an insight to the collective. We have an insight to the collective. We help others, and then we help big picture thing, and help regrow that connection to the planet that we live in. That's always going to be our foundation. That's lost in contemporary society. Speaking of contemporary society, I'll give a shout out to Lexi Harlan Eaglebear that says anger leads to danger. So, that's a good one. And I think that he comes up with a lot of them, a lot of good ones like that, a lot of really good, concise little, what do you call them? Little tips, little mental tips and tricks and things that um, help us keep these things in mind. Right. Remember when we did the healthy mental habitat, growing healthy mental habitat. Let's keep that anger leads to danger. Let's put that seed in our mental habitat, give it intention, right? And so let's nurture this idea of anger leads to danger. Okay. So we don't want danger, right? So we want sustainability. We want life. We want wellness. So we don't want to put ourselves in danger. So when we get angry, that's the time when, technically, that's a time when things are vulnerable, when they get angry. I talked about fishing. That's a thing. If you can, it's called a reaction bite. If you can trigger fish in hunting, you trigger animals. Triggering an anger reflex is one way to catch fish. So they're vulnerable. In essence, the fish lets its guard down, especially like salmon. When salmon are coming upstream to spawn, they're not feeding, but they're all, jacked up on a mission. You put something in front of its face and it'll bite it. Elk, certain times of the year in the fall when the elk are mating, you can pretend like you're another elk, and elk will let its guard down and come in. So anger is a vulnerability, right? So I'm going to riff on the fuck your feelings crowd again because they need it. So if those are angry people, then fuck your feelings. If they just want to be angry and and perpetuate that lack of understanding and that anger, but there's vulnerability there. And time again with professional fighters, there's another good history lesson. What was that? Shell Ridge, not Shell Ridge. There's one time, Lodgepole Ridge. There's one time that Crazy Horse lured the cavalry into a trap because of their anger. Lodgepole Ridge, Fort Fetterman, something like that. Anyway, we're vulnerable when we're angry. So the people that are saying fuck your feelings, they're afraid of their vulnerability, but when you're angry, you're vulnerable. So, that's life. Because when we ignore ourselves, that's exactly what kind of thing we can expect to happen. And I think that, I got a bunch of random ones. First Iron Maiden, now Chris Rock. I think Chris Rock says that also, if you're homophobic, your kids are going to be gay. It's like life has a way of, of doing that. It's like life teaches us not to be shitheads. If we listen to what's going on, life, our natural life, our path of wellness teaches us not to be a shithead.
Chris Rock.
Have you seen that one?
No, but I'd like to see you try to do a Chris Rock maybe say it in his voice.
I can't do that. I do a better Iron Maiden impersonation, maybe, but I don't think I can do Chris Rock. I'd have to focus too much. I can't have that much
Right?
down. Um, so Griselda, you said, and feel free to pass or play. Okay, everybody, pass or play. You said, crying was associated with anger. I think I understand that. And people get so angry, they cry. Some people fight, some people cry. Do we externalize it or internalize it? Um, and I think that's the next thing is, are we externalizing our anger or are we internalizing it? So that's a super important thing because we don't want to be perpetuating it externally or internally. Um, I think a lot of people with anger, you hear anger management problems. It's really easy to see someone lashing out at other people. And it's easy for everyone to say, oh, that's bad. But what are people doing when they're perpetuating anger within themselves, when they've got unresolved anger within themselves? Or, if we're frustrated, to me, it's frustration. If we're frustrated with ourselves because we're just not able to, to turn the page. And I think that this is a common thing in addiction where people get frustrated with themselves. It's like, we know what to do. Why can't we do it? Right? Why can't we just quit? Why can't we, quote unquote, just change? Well, there's a lot of understanding going on there. If we look back, well, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why. But, trajectory is one of them. Our environment's another. Our, there we touched on it earlier, that pursuit of happiness. And, not having a really good understanding of that. Understanding. So all that. So with that, I'll say understanding one more time, two more times. Understanding when we're, holding our anger and when we're taking that in ourselves, and when we're angry at ourselves and not letting that, not identifying that, and not doing our inner work to, limit negative self-talk, right? It's like a lot of people won't let anyone else call them stupid, but they'll call themselves stupid all day long. And there's a thing, if you're with someone and they have negative self-talk, you say, hey, don't talk to my friend like that.
Mm.
Right? People being angry with themselves. Ah, you idiot. Ah, whatever your given name is. Ah, don't, you wouldn't do that to someone else. So don't do it to yourself. And what we're trying to do is the people that are externally projecting their anger, we're trying to say, hey, you wouldn't do that to yourself. Don't do it to someone else. But they are doing it to themselves. The worst thing that you can do is neglect. So, Griselda, do you have any other words that, are attached that that are relatives of anger?
Um, Relatives of anger
Yeah,
for
like just any or anyone. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm just trying to, for me, frustration. Frustration is a close relative of anger. Um, that's my big one. That's the only one.
for me, anger, when I get angry at people, places, things, or situations, or even I have to really work on not perpetuating that same negativity, I just constantly have to check myself on that. So I'm just constant, because I'm pissed off at, like you said, you see people being, not caring about anything themselves to begin with. So yeah, just
I think it's a good lesson. It's a good, really, again, understanding ourselves. And if we talk about flow and things flow through us and hollow bones, so we're taking things in, but then also, we've got our own volition. So, oh, and this is the worm medicine, right? When it comes out, it's got to be better. So let's take in, take in what we've got, but then let's not just perpetuate it. Let's not add to it. Let's try to provide some levity. And I think that that's an important thing, right? And same thing, right? We're talking about around us, but also for people that are more, introverted, provide some levity for yourself, right? Don't just perpetuate, external, don't perpetuate external internally, and if you're angry internally, don't perpetuate it externally.
Mm-hmm.
So, iPhone says, is being cornered and lashing out same thing as frustration? Yeah, absolutely. That's like, I think that's the stereotypical. Thanks for bringing it back around there. Yeah, I think that's a classic example of anger. That's a classic example of anger, and because frustration, and then it boils over, and you get that stereotypical anger from that yeah, lashing out.
I was just about to say that was like for example, I feel like when I look at my coworkers, they're frustrated about midday. They're just exhausted. And then comes about midweek, late the week, I can see them and they're getting all mad and angry, like, oh, this week be over. And it's just to understand that maybe they're exhausted because they didn't get enough sleep, and they usually, that's majority of it is that wellness, taking care of themselves, not understanding that even lack of sleep can create so much just a big old ripple effect. So yeah, that one was a good one. Being exhausted and frustrated.
Yeah, lack of sleep, lack of food. And then again, I know what you do, and that's a tough job. That's an emotionally tough job. How much are people, working on their own wellness and understanding that that's not just a job, when you're dealing with people's emotions and when people in challenging places, that's not just a job. You need to be, next level with everything, including our own, personal, for sure, our own personal development. That's not just to show up and deal with it. Well, I think that life's just not a show up and deal with it kind of thing. That's a delusional, life's not a day job. Understanding our species isn't a day job. We don't just show up, and we don't just show up and, take up physical space. It requires actual effort. Anger is often associated with something that we didn't choose. Even though frustration can come about from things that we have chosen. So we've got anger coming about because we're situations that, we didn't choose to be in. And there's a lot of examples of that. I mean, like contemporary society is an example that we didn't choose to be in. No one here chose that. No one here, was perfectly happy living as people did for the entirety of our existence, and then decide, oh, hey, you know what? I just want to go this way. Maybe some people have in the history of humanity, but no one here has. So, we're forced into an unnatural environment, a natural habitat with a lot of things that clearly don't work. So, there's things that we didn't choose, We didn't choose to have to go to work to get money, to go to the store, to buy food versus hunting and gathering. That wasn't a choice. And then the other end of the spectrum is that people get frustrated because they made the choices and the choices didn't work. And then they're stuck with the choices and they're mad at themselves for the choices that they make. So things that we choose and things that we didn't choose. Um,
Get back on track.
I'm on track. Just trying to read my writing. Um,
I feel like
all these, oh,
I feel like I feel like there's so much how do you say that complexity in our daily lives that it does sometimes complicate things because it's just not understanding again, and when you're put in, like you said, backed in a corner in this complex situation, all different types of emotions will arise. And so I feel like that's where our boundaries and having some type of guidance or structure, and understanding, and being able to feel and see what's going on around us. So like if we're getting backed in a corner, like my office is pretty small, our building's small. I hear our COs, they're getting crowded, so they're getting angry, but they turn around, look behind them, there's sun out there. It's beautiful, it looks pretty, birds out, water, it just changes everything. But it's just, I feel like it's I feel like it's a hard choice, but in reality, it's not a hard choice, just to having that balance and remaining positive and understanding that we're in a society where we're humans and we all should have, I feel, having respect for each other as well as an environment, and be able to adapt within an environment, because that's who we were. That's who our ancestors were. So not being in a corner I guess, can cause a lot. I mean, being in the corner can cause a lot. But yep, that's my thoughts on that.
yeah, 100%. Thanks for that. Yeah, 100%. And we speak decolonize here. All the complexities of quote unquote modern life, contemporary / colonial society is just freaking ridiculous. But part of embracing challenge, right, in that traditional teaching that you mentioned, adaptation and adapting to challenge and growing our resolve. And that resolve is that term resolve is super, super important, and to understand the big picture, and understanding ourselves, and, to have that holistic connection with life, Mitakyasi, first and foremost, right? The core base of our teachings, and that's, later to come about and to hear, oh, Mitakyasi, oh yeah, everyone knows Mitakyasi. Fucking not everyone over there does. But that's, for me, it was like, okay, I need to do this because there's more at stake than just me. And that was a huge part of my growth and my developing my resolve and my ability to transcend my own personal egocentric, oh, I'm crying for the planet, and oh, you hurt my feelings and all this, but there's way more at stake than that. It's go time. There's shit that needs to be done. Just so happens that it comes back to human and our feelings and all that kind of stuff. And that's beautiful. That's showing those cycles. But yeah, to align with the bigger picture, and like you said, right behind, we're still here. We're on a beautiful planet. Amazing things happen. Amazing things can happen. As we grow exponentially, and we start to, see our challenges in a different way. And this is always reinforced over and over and over again. There's the part that, well, all these fuck your feelings crowd are part of what's making us understand the human in general, and to actually ask questions and to actually go through the process of understanding. Why would someone say that? Okay, why? That's psychology, that's understanding ourselves, that's understanding our species. Why would someone trade printed currency for for clean water? Why would someone, subjugate the things intrinsic to life for printed currency? It's understanding our species on a deeper level. So there's always those things going on, right? And there's always the trickster teacher and, Tomy, and to see what, to know what not to do because someone else is doing it, all those things. So yeah, and, ancestral wisdom again, and ancestral teachings again, always there's, it's within there. The lessons are there. And then a newer concept is somatic archaeology. Oh, I want to say this. I want to say transmuting and transcending our, when we talk about reactive, responsive, compulsive, conscious, we're growing our consciousness, our understanding, our awareness, our consciousness of when we start to feel angry, when we start to feel frustrated, when we start to feel sad or disappointed, that's keeping track of what's coming into our natural ecosystem. And it's hunt and gather again. It's the same thing as if we're in a deer stand and we just got to keep vigilant. And then, after many hours, there will be a deer. Or if we're in grizzly territory and we need to watch out, this is the understanding the habitat and our internal habitat, what's coming into our internal habitat. Because the first thing is to identify it and then take the next step. Is don't let it escalate. Don't let that anger get too close. Keep it at bay, right? So our boundaries, transcend our own frustrations, look at the bigger picture, right? There's all these tools, there's all these understandings that can help us deal with all these challenges. But again, the overlying thing is look what that's doing to keep aware of our mental ecosystem. That's our own awareness. That's what's happening with us. That's just, I think it's just a natural course of life on this planet that we're paying attention to what's going on in our brain. And no, this is the fuck your feelings crowd that's doing cognitive dissonance with themselves. They're not understanding themselves. They don't have that healthy relationship with themselves. So all these things are having a healthy relationship with ourselves, and a healthy relationship with ourselves is balanced. So a healthy relationship means we can talk about the things that we think we want and the things that we don't think we want, and understand that we might not even have a clear concept of what those are, but to not disregard our anger and to not disregard our joy, to understand our natural inclinations, our natural attributes, where they connect to everything else, right? View ourselves with a natural approach, look for the cycles, look for the balance. The thing I was going to say is the newer, or at least it's new to me. The concept's probably been around since forever. Now I'm thinking of maybe a few different ways it has, but anyways, somatic archaeology. And this is super, super important. This concept, the way I understand it, is that we need to go through full cycles with our emotion. Because when we don't go through full cycles, right? Cycles, circles, we go through cycle, we grow, we get, and it goes like, I won't get my chart out because we're starting to run low on time, but we should be going like this, right? And it's easy, and then gets hard up the top of the hill, and then coast. And this is kind of like how our challenges are, right? We find a challenge, and then we climb up, and then we coast, and then hoop, new challenge, and so that's growth. But with our emotions, when our emotions don't get a full cycle, basically where we're not able to fully express our emotions, and I have to, include fully reconcile our emotions, we kind of go like this. We go, and not able to do that completion, and not able to do that completion. So we end up just kind of going back and forth like this instead of doing full cycles. So that somatic archaeology says that, we need to do complete cycles in our emotion. So our emotion, that's not saying let our emotions just spill out, wherever, because that's not consciousness, right? Consciousness, awareness, connection to everything. How do we let our emotions out maturely, to where it's in context with everything else that's going on around us, including the tendency for a lot of people not to be connected with their emotions? So that somatic archaeology, and then it says that when emotions are not completely cycled, when we don't go through complete emotions, that energy gets stuck in our physical being. And I think that that's part of acupuncture, is releasing blockages like that. And I'm definitely not up to speed on everything about acupuncture, but I think that's part of it. But like releasing stuck energy is definitely a thing. So, to have full cycles is important there. So yeah, decompressing anger is not suppressing anger, talking about where these things come from and addressing them on our own volition as part of a natural routine. Identify, recognize when we feel anger, and sit with it and understand where it's from, just like when we feel joy, and see where that's from. Why am I happy? I want to be happy again. What makes me happy, right? We think about those kind of things. How do we align ourselves with, and I think the key is align. How do we align ourselves with happiness? Well, part of aligning ourselves with happiness is understanding the opposite, right? Because isn't anger getting in the way of our joy? So if we can free up some of our anger under hopefully a somewhat mature, level emotion, if we can understand where our anger is coming from and lessen our anger, doesn't that let our joy come through more and our happiness come through more? So I think that those are, important things to understand, is not suppressing, but understanding and decompress ourselves before it gets too late. And maybe some people have a higher threshold for frustration. Maybe some people have a lower threshold. Maybe that's variable. That's all part of our, our boundaries and our self-management. And then we understand, others also. And if we can, hopefully some of this conversation about understanding the place of our emotions and how important it is that we can always, keeping in tune with ourselves. Don't just let an emotion sit there and not be recognized, because that's a challenge. An unrecognized emotion, an unrecognized feeling is a challenge, right? We're trying to understand. So don't just let something sit without being addressed, right? And so we can obviously use that correlation with other people, right? We don't just let something go without addressing it. But it's part of our process of growth and developing our maturity on how we address it. That's the fine points, is how we address it. How do we broach challenging subjects with others? How do we broach them within ourselves? How do we let the air out of anger, but not all at once? How do we let the air out of anger without popping the balloon, right? And of course, how do we, keep that balloon from getting filled up so it bursts? So that's, again, our boundaries, our understanding our habitat, our understanding our challenge, our understanding our species, all these things. So, hopefully some of that will help people have a better relationship with your anger, right? Healthy relationships. All of our emotions are there for a reason. Have a healthy relationship with your joy. Have a healthy relationship with our anger. A healthy relationship is not having it or not having it. It's understanding it. It is. We have it. We all have it. There's plenty of it, but there's a lesson there to understand. There's lessons there. There's always bigger lessons that lead us to other things. And, again, having a natural understanding of how we function as humans and our thought process. This is not a get it and go. Remember at the beginning of the talk, I don't know, it might have even been before we recorded actually, but it's not a, oh no, was it? It's not a get it and go. There's no takeaways. These are things that we introduce, right? The understanding is the soil. The idea is the seed, the watering is the intention, the action is the sunlight. So, we have anger. Anger is a part of us. Anger is a naturally occurring emotion. All our emotions, they're there for a reason. They're part of us. So we have to have a good relationship with those. A good relationship is not just get it out when we need it, and it's not just put it away arbitrarily. It's an ongoing relationship. It's an understanding. It's an understanding why it's there. Why are our emotions there? And why are they there? And also, what are they doing? So hopefully going through that help people understand and decompress some of our anger. And that is all I've got to say about that for this evening's wellness workshop. Decompressing Anger, Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, Business of Being Human. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Facebook, anyone on Facebook, all the eavesdroppers, the people that showed up on the live Zoom, even if you're not showing your faces and disguising your voice, the people in the live Zoom are here for the after party. The people on Facebook aren't, and the people on Facebook are missing the after party because now the shit's going to get really good. So Facebook, bye Facebook, bye Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.